He's gonna shove it,
man!
Shove it, squad, I get it, alright. I've been very angry lately. It's lockdown, lack of gym weights, Brother Peace tried to smack me one and then he left the channel. At every video I can feel myself slowly losing it more and more. You damn people think I'm a gimmick. Why? Because I'm constantly livid and I spend my life thinking about women and which YouTubers I'm gonna rip off and mimic. How would you like to spend every moment of your free time watching some of the worst wrestling over and over again on a never-ending loop? And you will have the nutsack to tell me, do Wes Briscoe on Ring of the Hawk? No, I'm not gonna do it. And you know why? For mental health reasons. That's why. And with this new positive outlook, I'm gonna try and be calmer going forward. So of course, with calmness in mind, Herbie Hawk is here to talk.
If you know a wrestler, how's the rest of it go? To the JLB, to the HJWZ. I got up this morning and went straight back to bed.
Thank you, Morris Coes over on Patreon. Don't know if that's how I pronounce your name or not. If I'm wrong, hit me with a brick. And he asked for Ric Flair's TNA run to compete on Ring of the Hawk today. Alright, let's do it. Ric Flair, did he make the girls care? Flair rocked up in TNA on the first episode of the WWE TNA Monday Night Wars, and he would end up managing AJ Styles. It all started when Hulk Hogan decided to give his Hall of Fame ring to the Monster Abyss. Ric Flair was extremely offended by these actions, and he also hated the Abyssomania storyline almost as much as me. Flair, AJ, and a small bold man teamed up. I know it's Desmond Wolfe, I'm just describing him how Hogan probably viewed him. They were determined to take the Hall of Fame ring away from Abyss, and the Hawk kept standing up for Abyss, which led to Hogan getting bloodied. Hogan retaliated a week later by throwing a barbed wire bat at Flair. A big tag team match was then announced for a week later, on the second episode of the TNA WWE Monday Night Wars, where both the Hawk and Flair would be making their in-ring debuts. Match 1, the opener, the Idiot Abyss and Hulk Hogan versus AJ Styles and Ric Flair. Flair looks all serious on his way to the ring, but Styles looks completely wacky. Styles and Abyss start out the match, but Styles doesn't do well, so he tags our guy in. Flair tells Abyss to bring it, and then Flair outpowers Abyss and chops him in the corner. Abyss fights Flair back with chops of his own, and then he catches Flair with a bad-looking back body drop as he comes out the corner. Flair jabs Abyss in the slash zone so Flair can get the advantage, but Hulk Hogan can't take their cheating and he storms the ring. Unfortunately, the Stinger decides to appear in the ring and he hits Abyss and Hogan with his bat, and then the match is thrown out. Then there's a big beat down that leaves the Hawk and Abyss bleeding. The Hawkster grabs a mic and says that the match isn't over and they'll be trying again at the end of the night in a no DQ match this time. I can't really grade this one though, it was just short and it wasn't too sweet. I'm not really a fan of Twitter, I don't tweet. Match 2, later that night. No DQ tag match. Ric Flair and AJ Styles with dressing gowns on, and they take on Abyss and the Hawk. Flair and the Hawk start out the match with a test of strength. Flair backs Hogan into the corner with chops, but Hogan fights back with a back body drop. They fight around the outside of the ring and our guy's busted open. I'd be surprised if there's a single match in this Ric Flair run where he doesn't bleed. Hogan pounds him on the head with pure savagery, and Flair tries to mount a comeback with chops of his own, but it has no effect, and Hogan chops him back as he screams with pain. Abyss starts to pound on Ric Flair on the ramp, and he throws Ric Flair into the ring so the Hawk can whip him with his belt. Flair is a bloodied mess while Hogan stamps on his head and AJ cowers in fear. Flair finally does something and he hits Hogan in the slash zone, and he tags Styles into the match. AJ has Hogan busted open, and he tags Flair back in. Flair hits Hogan with a snapmare, and then he climbs to the top, but Hogan catches him up there and throws Flair across the ring. This allows Abyss to tag into the match, and he beats up both men on his own. Abyss gives them both a choke slam, but the match isn't over yet. Flair chops Hogan in the ring as he hawks up. Abyss and Hogan hit double big boots. Hogan's boot to Flair is so slow and weak that it barely exists. Abyss puts AJ away with a black hole slam. I hope this isn't all we're going to be getting from Flair. He's literally done nothing but chops and a snapmare. It's a D for entertainment, but there isn't much else to say. Flair and Styles continue feuding with Abyssomania, and Abyss chokeslammed the Nature Boy through the entrance ramp. Flair's still upset about Abyss getting Hogan's Hall of Fame ring, but that all comes to a head next. Match 3, ring versus ring match. The Nature Boy Ric Flair versus Abyss. You would have thought this match would have been on pay-per-view with the long build that it's had. Abyss starts out pushing Flair across the ring. Flair isn't phased and he delivers an Abyss beatdown in the corner. He tries to outpower the monster, but it's not happening and Abyss beats him back. Abyss then hits him with the back body drop, and again it looks a bit dodgy. Flair goes to the outside because he loves it there for some reason, and he starts to bleed over literally nothing. At this point, the skin on Ric Flair's forehead must barely exist. Ric Flair kicks the monster and runs back into the ring, and he jabs Abyss in the eyelid. Flair tries to come off the top, but Abyss catches him up there and throws him through the air like the Hawk. The monster takes him down with a big boot and keeps going to the power game with the side slam. Abyss squashes Flair in the corner, and he starts punching and jabbing the air because he's out of it. Abyss has him in the corner, and then Flair hits a low blow that takes out the referee and him at the same time. Flair uses this distraction to get some brass knuckles, and he whacks Abyss in his big meathead, but it has zero effect. Flair drops to his knees to beg for forgiveness, and then he punches Abyss square in the slash zone. The referee counts the 3. What a great finish we have there. Earl raises his hand, but then he notices that Flair drops some brass knuckles. He then restarts the match, and Flair pounds on Abyss, but he hawks up. God, I hate this gimmick so much. I'm not going to get angry though. He hits the black hole slam, and it's over. Abyss wins his Hall of Fame ring. The Hawk flies out to celebrate the win, and takes the ring away from Flair, and says that next week he's going to be giving it to someone. Stupid storylines aside, we've got to try and grade this match. Flair was very entertaining, and I think at his age we've just got to try not to expect too much. Let's give him a C because it made me laugh a fair few times. Not sure if that was the intention, but who cares? If I laugh, it means I'm being entertained in some way. And isn't that the point in wrestling? Well, it is in this Hawk's eyes. The Hawk then gave the ring away to Jay Lethal, who was doing wrestler impersonations. He was completely wacky and pointless. One impersonation that he was no longer doing was the Macho Man, however. Lethal does an entertaining Ric Flair impersonation, but it's not the one you're all thinking of here. There was actually 2 of them, and this is the first. Flair isn't a fan of it though, and Lethal gets scared and gives him his little ring back.
I cannot wait because I am the 16th time. Because I've said it before, to be shut up. To be the man you've got to beat the man. You know it, fat boy. You know where you are right now? Oh yeah. No. I'm asking you, do you know where you are right now? You're standing in front of God right now. Nobody in this business walks out in the ring and tries to, hey, let me show you what you haven't seen yet. This is yours, you've earned it. You are the Hall of Famer. I was just messing around here.
Flair slaps the hell out of Lethal anyway, and Lethal fights back, and this would then end up turning into a mini feud. Lethal was more of an annoyance than anything to Flair and his Fortune faction, and he continued doing Ric Flair impersonations.
These shoes cost $500. This suit costs $5,000. And AJ, I don't know what that costs, but I'd be ashamed to wear it. Champion.
Let's talk about the woo-off. It was great, and these two clearly had great chemistry.
Mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all? Why'd you, Nature Boy? Not that pisshead Jay Lethal. Kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun that can kiss any woman right here, even that fat one, and make her cry. Woo! Woo! Woo!
It's a shame Jay Lethal was always more likeable when he was pretending to be somebody else. Flair and Styles beat up Jay Lethal's brother in an act of revenge. This is probably the most storyline and character work we've had on Ring of the Hawk, as Flair embarrassed Jay Lethal and tells him that he's nothing in wrestling. Lethal may have been great in that woo-off, but Flair owns him on the mic in every other segment. The promos are all top-notch from Flair, so I'll be factoring this into Flair's final grade for Ring of the Hawk. Match 4, Victory Road 2010. Jay Lethal versus the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, who demands Earl Hebner lowers the rope for him as he comes into the ring. Lethal starts out by knocking Flair down as they have a feeling out process. The pace suddenly quickens and Lethal knocks Flair down with a drop kick and a back body drop. Flair runs up on the outside of the ring like he does in most matches. Flair then comes back into the ring with a shoulder to the gut, but Lethal fights him off with a suplex into the ring. Lethal continues doing well and he hits a top rope drop kick for a 2 count. Flair finally slows Lethal down with a thumb to the eyelid. Flair delivers his world famous chops to Lethal, but Lethal comes back with some of his own. Flair starts jabbing the air and then he takes a Flair bump. He then stupidly decides to go to the top and Lethal catches him up there as he nails a top rope superplex. No cover from Lethal though, as he goes to the top for a moonsault in typical X Division fashion, but he misses. Flair now has control of the match and he starts to work on Lethal's leg. The crowd is surprisingly split between who they want to win this one. Flair delivers a chop block and he struts around the ring with happiness. He continues to work on Lethal's leg and he locks on the figure 4 leg lock. It doesn't look too great unfortunately, but I'm not going to get upset about that. Earl Hebner breaks it up due to Flair's cheating. Lethal tries to score the sneaky pin, but Flair kicks out. Flair continues to dominate and he has some chops for Lethal in the corner. Flair thinks he's in control, but Lethal hits a handspring elbow to take Flair out. Lethal then steals Flair's move in the corner to annoy him even further. Flair gets even more livid, if that's even possible, as Lethal tries to strip him down to his Y-fronts. Lethal hits a crossbody from the middle rope and a splash onto Flair's knee as he screams in pain. Lethal delivers a chop block and puts his own figure 4 on, and suddenly Flair taps out to his own move. I was not expecting that. This guy has a lot of class to put Jay Lethal over. I can't believe he tapped out to Lethal with zero shenanigans. Earl Hebner drops Flair after the match. Do you know what? It's a damn shame Lethal couldn't use this momentum to further his own career. An enjoyable match, slightly better than expected, longer than I thought it'd go as well. I'll give it a low B. I doubt we're going to see any better TNA matches than that though. I guess time will tell, but for now, this Hawk is just going to carry on watching the show and loving life. Match 5, Street Fight. Jay Lethal versus the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Oh, so this feud's still going on apparently. It's a street fight, but Ric Flair comes out to wrestle in a suit. Flair jabs Lethal in the eyelid and he chops Lethal in the corner. The crowd's support for Lethal is dramatically diminished at this point. Flair smashes Lethal in the slash zone. Lethal's rolling around on the floor in pain, so Flair kicks him again in the nuts. Slick Rick heads out of the ring to get some weapons, and Lethal uses a distraction to go under the ring, and then he comes out the other side. Lethal springboards into the ring with a drop kick to catch Flair completely unaware. Lethal starts to strip Flair whilst chopping him in the corner. Lethal then hits the best back body drop I've seen so far, and then he takes a kendo stick to Ric Flair's head to bust him open. There we go, that's the Flair I was expecting. Lethal continues beating Flair up, and then he takes a Flair bump to the ground. Douglas Williams heads out to watch the match, who I'm a massive fan of because he also likes to hit people with bricks. Lethal hits Flair with a baking tray as he takes another funny Flair bump. Lethal continues to strip Flair and he reveals some purple Y-fronts. Taz makes fun of his panties and asks why he got his underwear from Asda, Walmart. Jay Lethal gets Flair's belt and beats him with it whilst Flair shakes with pain. Jay Lethal throws Flair's clothes into the crowd. He better hope he has a change of clothes in his locker, otherwise he'll be going home in a turkey suit. Lethal hits Flair with a trash can and then he takes another Flair bump. This is more of a comedy match than the last one, and it's the sort of thing that Flair probably regrets doing right now. They then try to make it serious again with a top rope superplex. Lethal tries to make the pin, but Douglas Williams breaks it up. Lethal batters him for his efforts. Lethal then heads to the top and tries to land a sunset flip, but he can't manage it, but instead he does manage to pull down Flair's knickers, and the censor has to blur it out. This match is not how I want to spend my Wednesday afternoon in Witheliscombe. This match can shove it. Williams hits Lethal with a belt whilst the referee is distracted, but I'm not sure why the referee had to be distracted in the first place due to the match stipulation. Flair is the winner. You know, I'm not one of these miserable internet fans who moans and whines about disrespect and how could TNA make Flair look like this. The Hawk likes to have a laugh and have a good time, but this match, it did devalue Flair and make him look stupid. It made him look like a senile old granddad, and I wish he hadn't done this match. This match didn't put Lethal over, and Flair looked stupid throughout it. So who really benefited from this one? I don't know. I'll give it an S, because I felt embarrassed to watch it. At least Flair was trying to entertain us. It just wasn't the sort of entertainment I enjoy. Now put Brooke Tessmacher in Flair's place in this match, and then this Hawk would be chirping a different tune. Give me the choice between her and Ric Flair. I'd rather see her moon. The Lethal feud is definitely over now though. Several months later, Flair and Foley started feuding, and Flair beat up Foley's book, which we know is a serious offence to Mick Foley. Match 6, last man standing match, Nature Boy Ric Flair versus Mick Foley. It's Foley's last TNA match, and it's one of his final matches of his entire career. Flair batters Foley in the corner. He then rips off his plaster and kicks him in the slash zone. Foley's busted open 20 seconds into the match. They then fight around the outside of the ring. Nothing happens though, and then they get back in the ring. It's all peace and love here. Foley now has his barbed wire bat, and he hits Rick in the head with it. Foley continues the assault as Flair is split open. They fight up the commentary area, and then Foley continues grating Flair's head with the bat. Then, suddenly out of nowhere, Flair throws Foley off the ramp and through a table. The crowd are going absolutely berserk. They have to be censored, they're going so nuts. I like the way that they didn't telegraph this spot, and it came as a surprise. Back in the ring, Flair is winning, and he beats up Foley with his own book. Then he beats it up again and kicks it around the ring. Great product placement right there. Flair brings a bag of thumbtacks into the ring, and Abyss wasn't anywhere in sight. Flair takes a back body drop onto the tacks, and he screams in pain, looking like a pincushion. Foley brings out a barbed wire board into the ring as Flair begs for forgiveness. Foley beats him down in the corner with rapid fire shots, and then he charges at Flair and shunts the board into the corner. If you forgot this was a last man standing match, I'll forgive you, but Earl does do a count for the first time in the night. Flair makes it up to his feet in time though. The two legends frantically trade shots, with Foley getting the best of Slip Rick again. Foley then brings a table into the ring. Flair resorts to his dirtiest player in the game tactics, and he gets Foley twice in the slash zone, and then he sets Foley up on the table. That's not enough for Flair though, and he smashes the barbed wire board on top of him. Flair heads up to the top rope and he dives with a splash through the table. Damn, the crowd go nuts again. Both men seemingly make it up at about 8, but then Flair takes a Flair bump and Foley wins the match. The story is that Flair collapsed due to the loss of blood. After the match, Foley wants Flair to kiss his ass, but Flair doesn't fancy it. We saw enough of Flair's ass in the last match, Foley. You can shove it. Fair play for this match though. It was a serious matchup and they obviously tried hard. They were both incredibly slow at this point, but they did what they could. It's a C. Match 7, Nature Boy Ric Flair versus The Blueprint, Matt Boring. This is one of the 50 attempts TNA made to try and make Matt Boring a star. Boring has been one of Flair's lackeys for a while, but now he's against him. The Boring one starts out massively overpowering Flair. Flair isn't a fan of that, so he boots Boring in the gut and then he chops him down in the corner. Mr. Boring fights back with the back body drop out of the corner. Then he hits the splash in the corner. He follows that up with the sleep-inducing elbows, which of course causes Flair to take a bump. Then, talking of bumps, there's a ref bump. Flair boots Morgan in the slash zone. Flair now takes his time and beats on Matthew. Boring suddenly grabs him by the throat, but Flair jabs him in the eyelid and throws him out the ring. They then fight on the outside and Flair starts to bleed again. Boring's really picking him apart, and then he gets back in the ring. Boring nails Flair with the choke slam, but there's no ref. Then the entire Fortune faction run out to attack Matthew Boring, because they're all still lackeys. In what has to make history as the most forgotten turn in the whole of pro wrestling, Douglas Williams suddenly decides to turn into a good guy, and he helps out Matt Boring. He doesn't hit anyone with a brick though. Flair tries to take out Matt Boring, but his attack has zero effect, and if you are still awake at this point, Matt Boring nails him with the carbon footprint, and it's over. Didn't like this one. They didn't mesh well together, and there was too much interference.
Oh, man!
It's an S.
Match 8, 3-way street fight. Ric Flair versus Matt Hardy versus AJ Styles. This is basically just a handicap match. Flair stays on the outside for most of it before he comes in to attack AJ on the ground. AJ dodges a couple of Flair elbows, and then he takes Flair down with an enziguri kick. Styles boots Flair in the slash zone, and then he locks on a figure 4, but Matt Hardy makes the save with the leg drop. AJ tries to regroup, but Flair thumbs him in the eyelid before Styles fights back. AJ is really struggling in the handicap situation, and Matt takes him out of a trash can. Back in the ring, Flair beats down Styles, and I'm not even sure how he got busted open this time. This match is Rob Terry ugly, but Styles tries to make Flair even uglier with the 10 punches in the corner. Flair then tries to hit Styles with a chair, but AJ boots him. Styles tries to finish Hardy, but Flair hits Styles in the slash zone, and then Hardy hits the twist of hate on the steel chair. Hardy gives Flair the pin, and it's over. Not good at all. He really needs to stop bleeding in all of these pointless matches. It's an S. Match 9, Lockdown 2011, Lethal Lockdown, Immortal, The Idiot Abyss, Matthew Hardy, Bully Ray, and our guy Ric Flair versus Fortune, Beer Money, Kazarian, and Daniels. What a weird main event match. I can't believe this is going on last. Ric Flair certainly doesn't start out the match, but he does enter third for his team. He works with the Monster Abyss to deliver chops in the corner, and then they send Kazarian into the cage. Flair struts around the ring to celebrate. He won't be doing much of that in this match. Storm enters the match with a beer bottle, and Flair drops to his knees and begs Storm not to hit him with it. And then, like a complete idiot, he stays begging on the floor for ages, so Storm hits him with it. Well, what did he expect? I don't know, not gonna get angry though. Maybe Flair's allergic to beer or something. Maybe he's a whiskey man. Flair's now busted open, but he no-sells it and tries to escape the cage, so Storm throws him into it. James Storm continues battering Flair in the corner. Flair takes his Flair bump in the middle of the ring. Flair's ass starts hanging out again, so Storm spanks him. Why is this necessary? Why make him look so stupid? Storm looks like he has serious beef with Flair here, and he keeps pounding on him in the corner. Flair eventually does pull up his pants, and he thumbs Storm in the eyelid. Flair's bent on revenge on Storm, and he chops him in the corner. He wipes his bloody face all over his ripped up trousers. Bobby Roode then enters the match, and he chops Flair in the corner, and then he hits him with a back body drop as he comes out the corner. The lid of the cage is now lowered and the weapons come into play. Daniels wallops Flair with a trash can lid. Roode carries on beating on Flair with a stick. This is just a weird lockdown match because they get outside the cage. Christopher Daniels almost falls off the cage, or he's just really amazing at selling. Who knows? Flair is really a non-factor in this match and he's just lying on the floor bleeding. Bobby Roode hits him with the double R spinebuster, but it doesn't look very good. Daniels hits a dive from the top to take out Abyss and Matt Hardy. Roode puts the figure 4 leg lock on Flair, but Bully uses a trash can to break it up. Flair gets hold of a kendo stick, and he finally does some damage to Fortune. The match is really just about setting up a big return from injury for AJ Styles. He storms the ring and clears house. Talking to Storm, he hits Flair with a super kick, and then Roode makes Flair tap out with the armbar. Man, Immortal would have been better off without Flair. He did literally nothing but get beaten up, and then he cost his team the match. It's an S. Next up for Flair, Sting was on a mission to fight Hulk Hogan, so Flair put himself in his way. Sting would have to go through Flair to get to Hogan. Match 10, final match, and the final match of Ric Flair's entire wrestling career. It's Ric Flair, who's 62 years old here, against the icon Sting. The crowd are buzzing for this one. This wasn't planned to be Ric Flair's final match, so it wasn't built that way, so you can't blame TNA for that. They start with a lock-up, but Sting throws Flair across the ring. Sting immediately knocks Flair down again. Flair tries to take Sting down, but he sort of kips up. They start wooing at each other. It wouldn't have been a Flair-Sting match without that. Flair takes Sting down with a drop toe hold, but Sting reverses it into a hammerlock, and Flair makes the ropes. The two icons come face to face, and the intensity starts building. Flair tries to go to the top, so Sting throws him through the air like the Hawk. Sting clotheslines Flair over the top rope to the outside, and this is where Flair feels at home in TNA, as he's been there every match. Flair throws Sting into the crowd barrier, but he no-sells it and charges straight back at Flair. Slick Rick starts begging Sting to stop, but Sting isn't having it, and he beats the Nature Boy down in the corner. Flair finally does something, and he punches Sting in the slash zone. Flair takes him down again with a chop block as he looks exhausted. Flair puts on the figure 4 leg lock, and he starts cheating as well. Sting eventually feeds off the crowd and turns the figure 4 leg lock over, but Flair breaks the hold. Flair starts to chop Sting in the corner, and in typical Sting fashion, he ignores it. Flair thumbs him in the eyelid, and this does affect him, but for some reason Flair then decides to go to the top. Has that ever worked for him during this whole video? Sting hits the superplex from the top, but it's only a 2 count. This move here is essentially what ended Ric Flair's wrestling career, as he tore his tricep. Immortal wrestlers then try to interfere, but Sting takes them out, and Mr. Anderson then makes a save with a steel chair and they all run off. Hogan's still out there though, and he passes brass knuckles to Flair, and he levels the Stinger. He takes about a year to pin him, and Sting is able to kick out at 2. Sting's back on his feet seconds later, and he delivers a Stinger splash in the corner, and then Flair takes a Flair bump to the ground. Sting puts on the Scorpion Deathlock, and it's over as Flair taps out.
Wait, no he doesn't, but I guess he verbally quits.
So in the final moments of Ric Flair's entire wrestling career, the camera spends 95% of the time on Hulk Hogan's face. In fact, take a look at this image right here. This is the final shot of his wrestling career. Oh, by the way, the match wasn't very good. The crowd were into it though. I'm going to give it a D. So that's it. That's the end of a legendary wrestling career. He stuck around in TNA for a bit, but he stayed out of the ring and didn't have any more matches. He actually accompanied the Hawk a few months later for his final match against the Stinger as well. That match was a fair bit better than this one though. We've got to grade Ric Flair now and see if he deserves a place on the Ring of the Hawk roster. And remember, as I stated earlier, it's the all-rounders game we're looking at here. Promos and entertainment are just as important as the match quality. And that's what's going to save him from the shove it zone tonight. Ric Flair's time in TNA gets a D. Ultimately, I'm sure he wishes he didn't have to tarnish his wrestling career with some of the comedy spots he did in TNA. But that first match against Jay Lethal and that last man standing match against Mick Foley were both worth a watch. I really mean it, there's nothing bad about those matches. So really, Ric Flair's time in TNA is blown out of proportion, isn't it? It wasn't as bad as people say it was. He was mostly a manager who wrestled 10 matches in over 2 years, so it's not as if he was out there embarrassing himself in the ring every week. And his promos were gold, and if you don't agree with that, you're full of mould.